But talking about the challenges that we are facing right now, and talking about the competition between democracy and authoritarian regime, what do you see the current phase of this competition?
Jasmine, it is game on. We have not just been in a democratic recession. We have been in an assault on freedom around the world. We saw the rise of China. Then we saw the network of autocrats backing each other up, supporting each other. But we also see now the CCP on offense thinking that it can take over these international institutions. It can undermine these international norms. It can begin to undermine freedom, especially in a place like Taiwan. So it's game on.
Hi, 大家。我们现在坐在这个位置呢，没有要录不负责 react。我们今天呢要来访问一个大来宾。
他叫 Damon Wilson， 他是这个 NED National Endowment for Democracy， 就是美国的国家民主基金会的这个执行长。
他当了5年哦，所以他等于是看了这5年台湾的不是台湾哦，全世界的民主冰冰冰冰
冰冰冰。
对，然后当然，所以我们这次
从 COVID 开始
那他一开始应该经历的是蛮辛苦的，
对，
因为我们要稍微讲一下这个组织他基本上就是到世界各地去帮助希望发展民主的国家，对，所以他们其实像在节目里面，到时候 Damon 会讲到说，他们也帮助到阿富汗的女性。
很多就各地的国家啦，他们说有跟90个国家吧，然后有做这个协助他们的民主去发芽茁壮这样子。那台湾也有类似的组织，就应该是台湾的组织其实是 copy 美国 NED 的这个发展模式，所以我们叫做 TFD Taiwan Foundation for Democracy， 那叫台湾民主基金会。那我们这个董事长就是韩国瑜先生，他必须要是我们的立法院院长，然后他的副董事长是林佳龙，就必须要是我们的这个外交部长，对，所以就是台湾其实也有这样子的组织，然后也会跟美国的 NED 一起合作。
对，一起合作这件事就是我们今天访问的重点了。我们今天请 Damon 来，其实是要聊除了美国，当然他们自己推广民主，这是他们一定会喜欢要做的事情。但台湾呢？台湾在现在这个时局，就是我们其实，在节目里会聊到民主跟独裁的对垒的时候，台湾的角色可以是什么？我们可以做哪些事情？以及当然，我们提到了一个很大的问题是，台湾人常常会说一句话，就是民主又不能当饭吃。那我们问 Damon， 就是他今天他身为一个推广民主的组织的执行长，他要怎么去说服很多人？民主为什么可以当饭吃？
然后我们也有提到，就是大家都知道，现在美国就是这个川普大砍很多的资金嘛，那其中也包括这种这个比较是外援啊，或是推广价值面的，那我们就问他们受到的影响是什么。那我自己也很好奇的，就是中国或是其他这些威权国家，他们是非常策略性的在去不管是让台湾的声音变得更小，或是策略性的在全球推展这个威权统治，包括威权治理。那民主国家现在我们的合作够吗？然后以及就是我们现在碰到最大的挑战是什么？然后还有我们要怎么去我们是不是面对现在中国很强，现在在各地大撒钱？那我们的策略有没有需要改变？
对。然后呢，要跟大家先讲一下这一集专访呢会有可心单枪匹马，对，因为我现在因为身体状况的关系，所以呢我就退居我现在要退居成为一个最佳制作人，所以我们就是请可心 solo 演出。那等一下呢，在整个专访结束之后，也别忘了我们现在都会有会员专属影片所以我跟可心，其实我们在结束之后，我们有偷偷讲说，你觉得哪一题 Damon 有没有回答到你呢？还是你觉得他回答并不好呢？这些有点辛辣的东西，我们就留到会员专属。好了，所以专访开始咯。然后强调一下，这一集是全英文访问所以如果是听 Podcast 的听众，如果你觉得有一点点的辛苦的话，可以打开我们的 YouTube， 我们都会上中文字幕好，专访开始咯。
Yeah, she's like, stop talking and please start the interview. So,
all right, shall we just start it?
I'm in your hands.
All right. Today, it's our really great pleasure to have Damon to join our show today. So, Damon, could you introduce NED? Stands for National Endowment for Democracy.
That's right.
Can you introduce this organization to our audience? What's the purpose of NED and what's the importance? And, a lot of our audience will also ask, Where does your funding come from?
Sure. Jasmine, first of all, thank you. It's just terrific to be on the show. So thank you for having me. And it is awesome to be back here in Taipei.
How many times have you been in Taiwan?
Well, I've been president of NED for almost 5 years, marking my 5-year anniversary this July, and this will be my 5th trip. So I've come to Taiwan, tried to come every year of my presidency at the endowment, and I have come to Taiwan more than any other country.
Wow.
And that's been intentional because we believe in helping Taiwan safeguard its own freedom. So that's why we're back.
Yeah, I will ask more about the importance of Taiwan. Back to the introduction.
So the National Endowment for Democracy, we are America's Foundation for Freedom. So we're really a quite unique entity in that we were created over 40 years ago. President Reagan gave one of the most remarkable speeches as president, and frankly, one of the most remarkable speeches in modern American presidential history. It's called the Westminster Address, and before the British Parliament. And he said, look, we don't need to live side by side with totalitarianism and think this is normal. We need to understand that our strength are our values, it's our democracy, it's the ideals. And we can't be so hubristic. We can't be so arrogant. We can't be condescending to think that this is only about the United States, that these values are universal. And so in that speech, he really called for investing in, quote, the infrastructure of democracy to help foster the civic institutions, the universities, the groups, the democratic institutions that are fundamental to democracy. This speech seeded an idea about how to create an institution that could do this. And through an act of the U.S. Congress, the NED Act, the National Endowment for Democracy Act, Democrats and Republicans came together to create a pretty unique entity. We are a private foundation set up as a private entity, but with a public mandate that says that we have to work in support of freedom and democracy around the world in the long-term interests of the United States, recognizing that when freedom spreads, when democracy grows, it benefits. It's really good for the United States. So that's the story. The endowment is America's Foundation for Freedom, a private foundation that is funded by the U.S. Congress, by the American people. So we represent the American people's commitment to stand by those who seek freedom through an annual congressional appropriation. And it's provided on an annual basis for us to provide grants around the world, which we do, providing anywhere about $275 million and 1,500 partners across 90 countries. And it is a privilege and an honor to do this on behalf of the American people.
I think you mentioned something very important. Promoting democracy is also actually beneficial to United States itself. But my following question, sorry to start with a very pessimistic question. So we know that recently the U.S. government has been cutting a lot of fundings on foreign aid and also democracy promotion. How has NED been affected?
Right. So let me answer that, but I'm going to say one thing first. You said promoting democracy. Our model is quite different. Maybe a little unusual as an American's entity. That
Please correct me.
We do this work with a healthy dose of humility. And if we think that Americans can teach, suggest, impose, that's not how democracy works. That's not how freedom is sustainable. So our whole commitment, our whole philosophy is to support those who are seeking to solve problems in their own society. They take the initiative to seek our support. It's their country, their language, their religion, their culture, and we support them in their efforts. And so it is not us promoting one of our views. It is finding folks that actually have commonality of values and this view of the importance of human dignity and freedom, and giving that oxygen. So sorry for that sidetrack. I'm not avoiding your question because you were asking a good question. What about all these cuts? So we're really grateful. We have come through a pretty sporty time in the United States, a big active debate about the U.S. role in the world and how it should commit its resources and how this advances American interests. So we've come through a big debate, including about the endowment. Now it's been a much larger debate than the endowment, but we've been part of it. And Congress has decided for the past couple of years that, yes, we think it's important. We will continue to fund fully fund the endowment to carry out the mandate that Congress has given us. And we've not been subjected to the type of cuts and rollbacks that many of the institutions that are part of the U.S. government have been affiliated with. In part, this really hasn't been about NED's budget. This has been a bigger question. Do the American people still want to be seen as standing by those who seek freedom?
Yeah.
That's really the question.
Yeah.
And the U.S. Congress, Republicans and Democrats alike, bipartisan basis, have said yes.
But do you see that bipartisan support is like shrinking, or because we're seeing the Russian-Ukraine war, people do have this kind of fatigue. And I know, especially nowadays, you know, with AI, everything is going so fast. People want to see, like, I spend this kind of money, I want to see the result as soon as possible. So do you see that support, bipartisan support in the Congress or for the general public, it's actually harder and harder for you to convince them to continue to support NED?
Yeah, there are a couple of things there. I mean, one is that absolutely you can't take things for granted. And I think one of the things that has been healthy about this debate is that we've had to be more vocal, more visible. We often work behind the scenes. We work quietly. After all, it's not, we're not out there trying to do the work. We're trying to support other people in their work.
Yeah.
So we don't want to make it about NED. It's about how people are solving problems in their own country. But as an American, supported by the U.S. Congress and American taxpayers, we've had to be much more direct in making the case about why this is good for the United States. So it's true if you look in Taiwan, you look in the United States, there is pressure on our politics. It's how we consume information. It's the incentives that go into the polarized way that we consume our information. And yet we are a place that I'm really proud to say it's where Democrats and Republicans, business and labor, people who disagree vehemently about the direction of American public policy, they come together around the NED board table to say, this is good for our country, to back these people around the world. And I see this as one of our contributions to American democracy, is providing that space where Democrats, Republicans, people on the left, right, conservatives, liberals, as well as business and labor, actually come together to solve problems and do things that are serving our country's interests by representing the best of American values. There is still space for that. Is it harder? Of course it's harder. Oh, man. You see the big debates you have here. We've got our debates. Democracy is being tested. But there is still space for serious people to do serious work. And I'm really proud and privileged that the endowment's been part of being able to enjoy some of that bipartisan support in a very polarized environment.
Yeah, I'm very envy because as from Taiwanese perspective, with Taiwan, we do have a Taiwanese version of NED. It's TFD.
Yes, exactly. We know them well. We know them well.
And, but I really hope that Taiwanese people can also have this kind of, we wanted to support other democracies. Instead of, we are so proud of our own democracy, but I've started to feel like, just like Spider-Man's quote, right? With your bigger ability, you should have higher responsibility. I feel like now, as we are such a good democracy, we also should have this take on more responsibility in supporting other democracies. So you mentioned about Taiwan, and this is your 5th time in Taiwan. Can I ask, what do you see Taiwan in supporting other democracy around the world? And why do you come to Taiwan so often? What's the purpose?
So there are a couple things packaged in that, but they're all really, really important. First of all, I think morally, strategically, geopolitically, we do see Taiwan and Taiwan's freedom. It's the freedom of its people, the vibrancy of its democracy, is not just a nice and great thing, but a really critical element of the future of freedom globally. We know you're under pressure.
Yes.
And
huge one.
We believe that we should be doing what we can to work with Taiwanese civic groups and others to help safeguard Taiwan's freedom. But at the same time, you're exactly right. Taiwan has a superpower. I'm here this week in part because we've brought colleagues from around the world, from more than 70 countries. Many of them have never been to Taiwan. And they are shocked because many of them in Africa, Latin America, they might get their news a little biased depending on what mobile phone are you using, what satellite access
that
do you
makes
have.
Sense.
Oftentimes the
algorithm.
it's more than algorithms. It's we've got a real intentional CCP effort to dominate the ecosystem and to squeeze Taiwan out of that in much of the global South. So we've brought a lot of these people here, and they're stunned to see Mandarin-speaking, vibrant, free society. It's really quite beautiful. So your question is really important because we see that part of Taiwan's security, part of Taiwan's security in the future is for people to understand what's happening here, to see the vibrancy of democracy, to understand if they care about democracy and freedom in their countries, they care about Taiwan. But it's why we are doing exactly as you suggested. How can we work with Taiwan, work together to support freedom and democracy beyond Taiwan's shores? Because in many respects, that's not just a reflection of Taiwan's values, it's pretty self-interested in Taiwan's security as well to help develop those partnerships.
Yes. Could you give us an example on how?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. We love it. So when I came 5 years ago, we started working on what more we could do together because, as you said, we have a sister organization here, the Taiwan Foundation for Democracy.
Yes.
We've really worked with them for many, many years. They've celebrated 30 years. I came back for their anniversary a couple of years ago. But my first year at NED, Afghanistan fell. It was really painful. It was painful for my country. And NED and TFD came together to support Afghan women after the takeover of the Taliban. And we made joint investments, co-investments. A year later, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Devastating, horrible, one of the big challenges to freedom globally.
Yes.
Taiwan, the United States, we came together through NED and TFD to make co-investments to civic groups in Ukraine that were not only helping to support Ukraine's democracy, they were helping to support Ukraine's sovereignty and being part of the civic resistance of a Russian invasion. And Taiwan was part of that equation, and now that relationship has grown. This year, we've done that same thing across the Middle East, and we're working together now to support efforts that involve Taiwan and this community globally.
Yeah.
And Taiwan is making contributions. It has a lot to offer. Secure supply chains, how to think about AI for technology, how to engage citizens in these debates, how to manage the onslaught of information manipulation coming from an adversary nearby. You have gone through a lot. Taiwanese people have been tested. And that testing is really helpful for people around the world.
I'm so grateful that you mentioned about this because probably even for me, I think most of the Taiwanese people, we probably don't know we actually have so many efforts going on around the world. And I think we should know that. And
we should be proud of it.
We should be proud of it. Yes. And I'm also really curious, when working with Taiwan, what is the uniqueness of Taiwan and in this role? And how can, I know for Taiwanese people, sometimes we're not, we always see U.S. as the leader. We follow, right? We always, and also Taiwan, seeing our companies in Taiwan, we're really good at, sometimes just say that we're like people pleaser. The Taiwanese companies, we're always reach whatever our clients ask. And so I'm just curious, and this kind of, when working with Taiwan, what do you see from Taiwan? And what do you think that Taiwan can do more? Or what's the role of Taiwan that you see Taiwan is so different from other partners that you have?
I fear that sometimes this is a product of the CCP trying to isolate Taiwan and Taiwanese people. You can be so dissatisfied with what's happening here because of the politics, polarization, or what you might feel about your economy. You need to understand this is beautiful what's happening here. This is a place that taps people's potential and says, I have confidence, I trust my people, I'm going to unleash their potential. I don't know what they're going to create, I don't know what they're going to do, we can't control their speech, we can't control their brains, their ingenuity, but I have confidence that will make this country stronger, and look what it's doing. This has gone from an authoritarian system that was quite poor, and in an incredible, from historic standards, in an incredibly short period, has boomed into one of the most vibrant, competitive electoral democracies with one of the highest per capita GDP. So right now you can be unsatisfied. You can be
Yeah.
unhappy about your lot. That's actually not a bad thing. That's how democracies get better, because our people push us. But you can also lose sight on understanding how sadly unique and special that is in the Indo-Pacific. The rights that you enjoy, the creativity, the outlets you have for your creativity, your entrepreneurship, your ability to speak, what we're going to talk about on this podcast, you don't go far from here, and you can encounter real challenges. And to see that this has happened here, it for many people, they look at China, the PRC, and they're like, oh, look at this incredible development of a rich country. And I look at it and think, just imagine if it had developed with a degree of freedom. Just imagine if Xi Jinping didn't fear his people. What would we see in the world today? And Taiwan has created a model, very Taiwanese, that has brought the power of freedom, democracy, and economic prosperity together. And it's harnessed it with amazing culture and entertainment and technology. And so that's really compelling. If you're in the Philippines, it's an attractive way to think about it, in Indonesia, Malaysia. But it's also quite compelling if you're Vietnamese, if you're in mainland China, if you're a Hong Konger who used to enjoy rule of law, and to see what the people of Taiwan have created here, it's beautiful.
But talking about the challenges that we are facing right now, and talking about the competition between democracy and authoritarian regime, so the challenges we are facing right now is multifaceted. From FEMI, you mentioned, and also physical threat or economic coercion, all different kinds of threats that we are facing right now. And also recently, we just mentioned a little bit before we start the recording, we mentioned about the law on promoting ethnic unity and progress. That law China basically extend their jurisdiction globally. With all these challenges, do you feel that democracy is actually being, what do you see the current phase of this competition?
Jasmine, it is game on.
It's game on.
Look, I was born in a little bit different time than you. When I was born, I think there were less than 20 democracies. By the time I was at university, there were 70. I was developing my whole professional career in the crest of what became known as the third democratic wave.
So hard to imagine.
It was a period of optimism.
Yes.
It was a period of a great expansion of freedom.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, I don't know your age, but you're a little bit younger than me. That's not the lived experience of new generations today.
Yeah.
In the past 20 years, we have not just been in a democratic recession. We have been in an assault on freedom around the world. And some of it, you could imagine in a benign environment that we would have some challenges that could have come from the economic global recession, aftermath of wars in the Middle East, of the advent of social media in which citizens communicate with each other differently, connect to their governments differently. We could have had challenges to democracy in a benign environment that we could have weathered.
Yeah.
But we're not in a benign environment.
Yes.
Even as those challenges were developing, inequality, information, we saw the rise of China, the rise of a CCP-led PRC. We saw the perfection through investment and technology of repression at home. We saw that turn into the export of the tools, tactics, technologies around the world, surveillance cities. Then we saw the network of autocrats backing each other up, supporting each other, often with opaque deals, kleptocratic connections. And now I think we see the hubris of autocrats on offense. Vladimir Putin has hubristically fallen into a devastating war in Ukraine that's devastating his country and economy.
Yeah.
But we also see now the CCP on offense, I'm thinking that it can take over these international institutions. It can undermine these international norms, and it can begin to challenge freedom at its core. It can begin to undermine freedom because free people, especially in a place like Taiwan, present an existential threat to the CCP's existence. So it's game on. It's game on. Your generation has a really different task. Like, we've got to fight for this.
I envy yours, but then you're...
Well, I'm still alive. I'm still kicking and trying to fight for this one too, but you're right.
Thank you for leading the way.
No, but you're right. We've seen an alternative future. We've seen that reversed, and we have to figure this out together. It's why free people, free societies need to be working together.
Yes.
It's why we need to be working with Taiwan, the United States, bringing in others. Like, this is not something you take for granted. Our prosperity, the privileges, in fact, the privileges you grew up with, this freedom of speech, the prosperity of this place, that's not something you take for granted. And that's something that I think is really hard in any democracy, because you often focus on your local community, your local family, but we have a real game going on globally. And I'm proud to say that this is what NED is focused on, and this is why we're trying to play our own modest part in supporting people, ordinary people all around the world doing extraordinary things.
刚刚有没有觉得可心的英文访问很好听呢？各位，我们的英语韧性课也有2集这样的内容哦。可心一样用全英文访问了我们最喜欢的 Tony 胡振东，以及我们台湾前驻欧盟大使李纯大使。所以呢，如果你觉得刚刚的内容让你觉得很有收获的话，可以点下面的链接购买我们的英语韧性课，记得使用下面的折扣码哦，现在才会有优惠哦。好，节目继续喽。
You mentioned about that autocrats, and we see that authoritarian, they are working together right now.
They are.
Do you think democracy are working together enough?
Definitely not enough.
And what are the major challenges?
Well, look, first of all, let's recognize that the autocrats work together. It's often quite crass.
Yes.
It's often very self-interested. And so there are common deals or interests that bring them together. You see that in the war in Ukraine with Iranian Shahed drones and North Korean troops and Chinese technology.
Yes.
It is just awful. But it's not binding alliances that bring these societies, these countries together. I don't think they trust each other. This is a club of thugs that do really bad things to their own people sometimes. To imagine that they couldn't put a knife in somebody else's back. So we do see autocrats working together. I think it's often targeted at the United States. It's targeted at free societies. I think it puts a premium on free people working together. And we need more of it. We need to be doing more. That's not exactly where I think we've got some challenges to that. And sometimes we conflate maybe constructive economic competition that can be helpful among free societies and free markets that can fuel ingenuity with the competition that we face from autocratic regimes. So it's part of what the endowment tries to do, is to connect and support civic groups, activists all around the world so that they can work together. It's why we have more than 70 countries represented in Taiwan this week, because these are groups that are trying to understand what happens when the CCP shows up in their country. A state-owned enterprise backed by the CCP starts making investments.
Taiwan can tell you.
Correct. So what we do is we support Taiwan to convene, to bring together these folks from around the world so that they can learn, be warned, and help educate their own parliaments, their own populations. And this is a means of how we get free societies to work together. It's not just a government function. We need, the strength of our societies are free peoples. We've got to get them working together.
Yes. And what I want to ask, during your trip here and during your 5 years and seeing, coming to Taiwan so many times, what do you think, what can we do more? And what can we ask our audience to do more? And we know that Taiwan now, our technology is booming, our GDP, I'm so proud. But except for people making more money, what else can we do?
So look, Taiwan is subjected to a strategy of isolation.
Yes.
It's a strategy of isolation that the CCP pursues globally, getting you kicked out of international gatherings and using diplomacy to block. We work below a diplomatic level. We're not the U.S. government. We don't do U.S. foreign policy. We bring private initiatives together. That's why we include Taiwanese in everything we do, so that your voice is heard.
Yes.
But I think you can tell your listeners is don't be isolated. Every individual citizen of Taiwan that engages people beyond your borders, beyond your shores, is an ambassador for your democracy, is an ambassador for your story. We need Taiwanese out in the world. We're hosting, I think the Foreign Ministry has something called the Global Pathfinder Initiative. We're going to host a young Taiwanese student at the endowment as part of that initiative this fall. But I think the effect, our business model is not one of projects and budgets, and we are really about forging relationships of trust. Because how do you change people's minds? How do you help people understand each other? You build relationships of trust. That is 23 million citizens of Taiwan understanding that they have power. They can build relationships of trust. They can have connectivity. They can tell Taiwan's story. Don't let your story be erased by CCP-controlled media, or don't let it be blocked through isolation tactics. So it means making yourself uncomfortable, learning a foreign language, getting out into the world, conducting international business, studying abroad, traveling as tourists, and engaging with folks while you're doing that. This is not how most citizens are thinking about their family, but there's a sense of responsibility in our democracies today. And I think the citizens, the people of Taiwan, have such a role to play. And if there's anything to watch, Ukraine today has resisted this incredible Russian onslaught because every single Ukrainian has turned into an ambassador for Ukraine, part of a patriotic movement to resist the Russian onslaught. And Ukraine is forging an extraordinary nation in a very difficult circumstance. We don't even want to talk about that in Taiwan, but how can Taiwanese take the initiative now to really build those connections, those relationships? You have a lot to offer. Your AI technology, your chips, secure supply chains, the root of prosperity. We need supply chains that are built on free societies.
I think also innovation.
Absolutely.
Innovation from each individuals. I think for authoritarian regime, they weaponize people.
That's right.
But for democracy, all of the people is our greatest asset.
That's right.
And we actually keep promoting that. We wanted to make everybody, all of our audience, to become the civic diplomat, like civic ambassador.
I love it.
And that's something we're trying to do. We even have an online courses recently just launched, going to launch recently.
Congratulations.
And to teach our audience how to better promote Taiwan and tell a Taiwan story. And but I want to touch a little bit on Global South.
Sure.
So we know that China, you mentioned about, they actually are strategically expanding their influence around the world.
Absolutely.
And we know for a lot of Global South countries, when working with the U.S., it's a lot harder because U.S. or Western countries, they'll probably ask for more transparency clause. You need to abide this, you need to abide that. For China, they were like, here's my money. And actually, that is effective. Looking at how, months ago, President Lai he went to Africa, and China was able to influence the surrounding countries and to stop President Lai's trip. So we're seeing that influence is actually having an impact, an actual impact. So, what do you think should be the Westerns or democracies' alliance? What should be the strategy of this democratic alliance in Global South?
Well, part is helping countries, societies, business communities understand that their wealth creation, prosperity, real true development only comes when you have the conditions that will continue to attract real investment, self-generating private capital that depends on rule of law, depends on sanctity of contracts, depends on not violating and bringing forced labor into markets, and that you see oftentimes the flashy investments that can come from China into the Global South. It is very rarely connected into an ecosystem of investment that leads to job growth, that leads to sustained prosperity. What you see are the pockets oftentimes of captured elites being lined. And that means that these investment vehicles become a way of enabling stealing from their own citizens. And I think Taiwan has an ability to deliver that message, working with others, helping to educate others about what these business practices are, so that there's a real understanding that if you're going to get an investment that comes from the United States, from Europe, from Canada, from Taiwan, from Japan, South Korea, Australia, these are investments that can produce long-term returns in a way that's quite different. And the siren song of what we see is, I think that's something that we have to work closely. And in part of what we're doing is not showing up as Americans trying to tell people in Africa what's wrong with the CCP, but we're investing in Africans that are coming here to Taiwan, that are learning about this and become experts in articulating in their own languages and their own culture about how to think about what's best for their own citizens. And again, that's the beauty of democracy and freedom, that it's got to, if it's built from the bottom up, it can be sustainable. And that's how sustainable economic growth is going to work as well. We got to play a bit more of our A game. We're not always playing our A game, but we've got really strong arguments, really strong tools, and we got to figure out how to deploy them more effectively.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But sorry, I personally, I found it sometimes very hard to convey sustainability to some of other countries, and also a lot of the not like authoritarian countries. Well, even though their people understand that, but its entire structure of the country or the elite of the country, they're still like basically controlling the entire, or the resources in an entire country.
That's right.
So it's really hard to break that. And China is basically strategically working with those elite to strengthen their influence within the country.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. But it's I come back to the power of the powerless, as Václav Havel said. Our investments, we consider ourselves venture capital, but venture capital for freedom.
Yeah.
We're not making investments like a business entrepreneur would. We are making investments in freedom entrepreneurship. And that takes a bet on citizen groups, on people, on the demand side. We all know that the desire for freedom, it is a universal aspiration.
Yes.
We talk to many in the Chinese diaspora that couldn't worship the way they wanted to worship, couldn't speak how they wanted to speak, made money that was then taken from them unlawfully. That is really frustrating to people. That sense of lack of human worth, human dignity. You saw even reaction to Chinese citizens to how COVID was handled during the pandemic in China. This sense of dignity is such a powerful force. Don't touch my family.
Yeah.
Don't take my money. Don't tell me what I can and can't do in my community. These aren't complex ideas. These are fundamental, foundational principles of freedom, but they're in your soul, they're in your heart. You know when something is wronged. You know when you can't worship as you please. You know when you can't conduct fairs with your family without the state being intervened. It drives people crazy. So our investment is in people. We are not so hubristic to think, so arrogant to think that we can design big strategies in Washington to create freedom around the world. But we do believe in the power of people and the potential if you can unlock them. And so we just do simple support and investment in people who are struggling for their own dignity, their own rights, knowing that these very simple things over time are what transform societies.
Yes.
It's what drives change. Authoritarian regimes look very stable, very strong, but the truth is they are brittle because they don't have the feedback mechanisms, the loops of self-correcting mechanisms.
Yes.
Taiwan today looks messy. The United States today looks messy because we're frustrated, we're arguing, we're pointing out all of our shortcomings. But you're going to see Americans point out shortcomings in Americans.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what will fuel people younger than me saying, we're fed up with this.
Yes.
And it helps promote change over time, which is why our societies are not brittle. They're actually incredibly resilient.
Yes.
Taiwan can show that. The United States can show that. And if we believe in people in many of these authoritarian societies and stick with the people, someday they'll gain the upper hand. And I think I'm not naive about that, not Pollyannish about it.
Yes.
But it is not only the right thing to do, it's a pretty smart thing for our own interests.
Yeah. Actually, this is so encouraging, especially I feel like for nowadays, I think, even for in Taiwan, a lot of people started to, I think it's also because of the FEMI, because of the information warfare from China or other authoritarian country, that even for us, we are questioning the system. We're questioning
Absolutely.
the democratic system, and we're losing faith.
Well, look, I think you see, first of all, again, in a benign environment, democracy's messy. It's peaceful conflict. It's how you resolve problems and conflict in a society peacefully. Well, thank goodness that's the way to do it.
Yes.
But it can mean sharp ideas. Some polarization is actually healthy because it gives people options. But when it begins to demonize the other, you start to erode at some of the foundations of the institutions that are important for democratic practice. But you don't have a benign environment. And I think the people of Taiwan are pretty sophisticated.
Yes.
But to realize that there's an effort out there not to take Taiwan militarily, although they're that too, but there's an effort to break your will. There's an effort to convince the people of Taiwan democracy's too messy. It doesn't deliver. The elegant simplicity of an authoritarian system like the CCP and being able to take decisions quickly and operate with efficiency. And yet, if you're out of line with that, that human cost is incredibly high. And I think to understand that in Taiwan, your political leaders have to answer to the people. They have to trust the people. They have to earn the trust of the people. And this is a system that allows people to find their own voice, agency, and tap their own potential. And you've got a CCP that is really trying to undermine that virtuous cycle and trying to convince it's just easier. It's just easier to come along with us. So it's a tense moment, and I think it can be easy to get lost in how you can be dissatisfied with what's in front of you. But it's partly why if citizens of Taiwan look around the world, travel around the world, they'll understand, actually, we have it pretty good. We have it pretty good in terms of education, in terms of job opportunities, in terms of our free speech. I'm envious. I think really highly of this place. Really highly of this place. We can learn a lot from each other, and that's enough confidence in our system, but enough confidence in our values. With enough frustration that we're going to make our systems better. Our systems depend on constant rejuvenation and reform, but enough confidence in the underlying values that we can protect what we have, even as we work to make it better.
I think a lot of Taiwanese people, or I think even around the world, people, especially there's a saying in Chinese that you cannot rely on democracy. 民主不能当饭吃. You cannot rely on your livelihood on democracy. Do you agree with that? And for those who have this notion, what would you say to him?
Look, this is a sinister way of often dictatorial regimes, authoritarians, to erode in people's minds, to question democracy. All right. Democracy is the source, first of all, of feeding your soul, your spirit with a sense of dignity. I respect you, your opinion, your ability to marry, worship, be with your family. Without dignity, it is hard for the human soul, human spirit to flourish. That flourishing is connected to prosperity. And what democracy does, it doesn't make you wealthy. It creates an environment in which shared prosperity is a possibility. It creates an environment in which, over time, you will see greater returns. So we have, I've been involved in an initiative, it's a center called the Center for Freedom and Prosperity. And it's based at the Atlantic Council. And what it has done is worked with researchers around the world to really build the empirical base of evidence that shows people are not only healthier, happier, and safer, but unequivocal evidence over time that those that live in free societies have greater shared prosperity. Look at North Korea, South Korea today. Even think about if mainland China had developed like Taiwan. Think about that per capita GDP of Taiwan if it were in mainland China. We shouldn't be just being in awe at what's going on in Shanghai. We should be wondering, why hasn't China prospered like Taiwan? So I think it's a false argument, a siren song. It's a way to manipulate us to casting doubt into our own system. And this is what dictators do. They want to, it's not worth it. It's not worth the struggle. It's not worth all of this. Freedom and democracy are key to your soul and key to wealth and peace over time. It's an incredible strategy. One of the reasons I'm at the endowment, the support for freedom, is one of the best prosperity and national security strategies free people can have together.
Yeah, thank you, Damon. Thank you for this very encouraging sharing. I hope that, I guess you're coming back next year for your
I'll be
sixth
back,
time,
Jasmine.
right?
I'll be back. Look, I do think that you said this is a place of innovation. We were watching Taiwanese who are taking technology and leveraging it for freedom and democracy. People are terrified around the world about what's coming with AI. We're going to see this place. We're going to see Taiwan help show people, actually, here's how we can use it for some good. Here's how we can use it for freedom. That's why we're coming back. We want to keep learning from some of those creations, that ingenuity here. And we hope to host more Taiwanese in the United States, around the world, as ambassadors for Taiwan, but we will be back.
So next, you mentioned that this year you have more than 70 countries, representatives coming to Taiwan. Maybe next year we can see around more than 8. We're at 80.
I like that ambition.
And I will also, during this year, I will really also hope to see more civic programs, more civic technology programs supporting democracy to come out from Taiwan. And that's something maybe in the future we can export or to share with other like-minded or even not like-minded country, to support their democracy there.
So we had dinner last night with our partners, final point, dinner last night with many of these partners from around the world. And we said, well, what do you want to take back from Taiwan? What do you see as a superpower?
Except for Xiaolong Bao. That's pretty super, I'll say.
Okay, all right. You got me there. But in addition, many of them said the way that Taiwan is using technology to allow citizens to shape their communities, shape public policy, advance democratic principles, like this CivTech side. This is something that you are uniquely positioned. This can be a superpower that Taiwan helps bring to the world. And we need a little help with leveraging technology for good, leveraging it for freedom, because we see what's happening on the other side of the equation. So help us even that fight out.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what I also hope to see, that Taiwan, we can do more. And I think we should be doing more, and we could.
Well, Jasmine, thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be here and great to be with all of your listeners as well. It's a real honor.
And I'll see you next year.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
我们现在首先我要先感谢可心帮我把这场专访做完。这是会员内容。
感谢我的内容可不可以不要放在会员专访？确实是看到他们那一代真的很幸运嘛，从小就可以完完全全的去追寻思想上面的这个自由。
他说他们算是venture capital of freedom，
对，
所以今天美欧到处去帮忙推广民主，觉得他们是值得在这过程中赚取一些回报的吗？